Hello and welcome to IAS Origin. So today we will be talking about global debt. Again and again in the news we have heard that countries are under huge debt. So many countries, be it developing or developed, are under debt. But why is this global debt rising? So we'll talk about that. We can see here an article. Global debt has it $307 trillion in 2023. That means the countries own this much of debt. In the year 2021, we crossed a benchmark where around $301 of global debt had risen. This was a benchmark and a thing to trigger about because after the Second World War, this was the hugest amount of debt. Yes, Second World War, we can easily relate the fact. Construction चल रहा था, war time period था, inflation was extremely high and reconstruction processes like Marshall Plan. That is why the debt was on a rise. But why now, after so long years, this debt has been rising? That means the government which is earning the revenue is spending more than that. Means expenditure is more than the revenue they are earning. And who these countries owe to? किसके ऊपर ये debt owe करती हैं? And the major debt is given by institutions like IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. Both these institutions give loans to these countries and the major debt of the countries are held by these two institutions. But a striking fact is that China, yes, a particular country, has also emerged as a loan giver. Yes. Have you heard about the Chinese debt trap diplomacy? Yes, China ने construction projects को लाके, for example, BRI, Belt and Road Initiatives. By these infrastructural development funds, they have given funds to various countries. And now when the repayment period has come, the world is in economic slowdown because of the global COVID-19 crisis. So, repayment period पे जब countries pay नहीं कर पाती हैं, they are under the obligation of the person or the institution or the country जिसने उसे पे किया था. As a result, now China influences the economic policies of these smaller countries. So this is a huge debt trap diplomacy that is followed by China. So let's learn in detail about the global debt. Before starting on to our topic, I would like to welcome you on IAS Origin and would like to tell you that here you can enroll with us for prelims cum mains program where you'll get live classes, one-to-one mentorship session, unlimited recorded access, which you can access anytime, and a personalized strategy plan based on your needs. So let's talk in detail about the global debt. What actually global debt is? So global debt refers to the borrowings of the government as well as the private businesses. That means it's not just the government's borrowing, but the private businesses. For example, if we talk about World Bank, the question is, World Bank सिर्फ government को पैसा देता है या फिर private individuals को भी? So the answer here is both of them. Yes, World Bank is not just World Bank but a World Bank group जिसके अंदर 5 institutes आते हैं. For example, if we talk about International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, as the name suggests, reconstruction के लिए है. This give loan to the government. Okay, when we talk about International Development Association, this give loan to the government. And when we talk about IFC, this is a part of World Bank, International Financial Corporation. Now, the International Financial Corporation give loan to private individuals as well, because एक particular country में private individuals, PPP model की बात की जाए, वो भी development carry out करते हैं. As a result, they can also approach to World Bank. So therefore, we can say that global debt can be the borrowing of the government also and the private individuals also. So this is global debt. Government borrow to meet the various expenditures that they are unable to meet through the tax and other revenues. Now, when we say revenue वो source रहता है जिससे government earn करती है. For example, taxes, tax receipts से जितना भी पैसा आ रहा है, non-tax receipts, tax can be direct also, indirect also, GST से जो revenue आ रहा है. But government here plays a major role of development in the country. Sometimes it can happen, for example, we are earning around 50 lakh crores from the revenue. and we expect that 50 lakh crore will be earned, but actual receipts are lesser than that. For example, we earned only 30 lakh crore. Now we have already done the expenditure. Where will this amount of 20 lakh deficit come from? So here the debt financing comes into role, and here the loans are taken up to finance the deficit part over there. The private sector also borrows predominantly to make investment in various projects like developmental projects. Okay, so this was all about global debt. Now the striking feature in the global debt is that if we talk about developing countries, we understand there is a need for development, that is why they are borrowing. But a striking fact is that USA, developed countries, owes much of the global debt. इसका भी बहुत बड़ा portion है. That means USA, UK, France जैसी countries भी debt trap के अंदर हैं. That means they also owe a huge amount to these international institutions. But here debt is not always a negative word. Debt है यानी कि development है, इसीलिए वो हो रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ वी टॉक अबाउट नाटो में यूएसए का बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले रहता है, बिकॉज मेजर फंडिंग हियर इज डन बाय यूएसए, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका. सो हियर मनी पर्पस इज फॉर बिल्डिंग एन इकोनॉमी, नॉट जस्ट फॉर गेटिंग इनटू ट्रैप. ओके, सो दैट इज हियर. नाउ लेट्स लुक इनटू द रीजंस बिहाइंड दिस. व्हाट आर द रीजंस? इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ, population expansion. Now earlier population was not that much. For example, if we take a case of Indonesia and India, India का जो debt है वो Indonesia से ज़्यादा है. Now you can compare. India is better developed than Indonesia. Still, India holds majority of the debt. Why? Because India की population is very huge compared to Indonesia. So here population ज़्यादा होती है, then people are there. That means resources are needed more. Okay, so this is the reason. Increased government spending driving the need. Now if the government is spending more, they'll need more to finance the projects. Okay, during the first half of the 2023, total global debt rose by USD 10 trillion. Okay, this has happened amidst the rising interest rate. Now these were the above reason, economic growth, population. Now one reason is that with the time going further, inflation बढ़ती है. That means अगर वो debt normal भी रहा, then due to the inflation वो हमको rise दिखता है. That is why, for example, inflation interest rate already बढ़ा था, तभी debt ज़्यादा दिखा first quarter of 2023 में. Okay, so this has adversely affected the demand for loans. Now here we can see budget deficit. As I said, रेवेन्यू आता है, and when the spending is more than the revenue, then the government borrows. Now the government has two options of borrowing. One is internal borrowing. Now in internal borrowing they may issue treasury bills, for example promissory note. Here they give a bond and public borrowing होती है. Here they issue bonds various that they'll take from the public, and after a particular time the government will do the repayment. Now this is done in the internal borrowing. Another kind of internal borrowing can be by printing notes. Yes, RBI can print notes, but this option is not opted. Primary borrowing कहते हैं इसको. This is not opted because it can lead to a huge rise in inflation. Inflation में extreme level पे rise आ सकता है, इसलिए opt नहीं होता है. Secondly, market borrowing का एक और disadvantages रहता है. For example, suppose this is all the money that can be given to various private sectors, government and all. This is a whole lot of money. Now, when in a particular year government borrowing was A1, suppose. So this A1 amount was given to government, and this leftover amount was given to private individuals. Now these private individuals carried out various business activities, जिनसे employment generate हुआ, development हुआ. Now in the next year government की deficit बढ़ गई and the amount rose to A2. अब ये A1 से A2, this whole lot is given to the government. बचा कितना? This limited amount is left only for the private individuals. This is known as crowding out effect. That means पहले ज़्यादा private individuals ले सकते थे market से, but now not available to all those. Like here you can see this much amount of private individuals were earlier taking it, but now only and only this much amount can take. So this is a crowding out effect. इससे private investment पे hamper होता है. That is why this is also not good process. As a result, government in long run goes for long-term financing for external borrowing. Now, external borrowing happens by institutions like IMF, World Bank, various other countries. So this is how external borrowing works. And the reason for borrowing is that we are a developing nation. Now here we need to take many developing processes. We are a democracy. डेमोक्रेसी की बात की जाए तो वहां पे वेरियस पॉपुलिस्ट पॉलिसीज रहती हैं. इफ यू नीड टू विन अ इलेक्शन देन वेरियस मेजर्स आर टेकन. फॉर एग्जांपल एमजी नरेगा एंड वेरियस अदर स्कीम्स व्हिच हेल्प द प्रो पुअर पॉलिसीज. फॉर एग्जांपल Antyodaya Anna Yojana, Awas Yojana, all these require huge sum of money. So these are the revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure means that these expenditure are done and they cannot be bought back. They do not build assets for the future. So these revenue expenditure are major source of government spending. As a result, the government needs to borrow. Okay, another kind of expenditure is कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. नाउ वी आर अ डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज. प्रोसेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट में आने के लिए हमको कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर करना पड़ता है. बिल्डिंग रोड्स, हॉस्पिटल्स, ब्रिजेस, कनेक्टिविटी बनाना. ओके, सो ऑल दिस कम अंडर कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. अभी इनमें इन्वेस्टमेंट ज्यादा हो रहा है, रिटर्न जीरो है, बट आफ्टर अ लॉन्ग रन ऑफ टाइम दे विल ब्रिंग अप द इन्वेस्टमेंट. ओके, दे विल ब्रिंग अप मल्टीप्लायर इफेक्ट. एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट करेंगे. एम्प्लॉयमेंट के साथ साथ आगे चल के दे विल सर्व एज अ मीन्स ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन. लिंकेजेस बढ़ाएंगे. एज अ रिजल्ट डिमांड एंड सप्लाई की चेन और रिबूस्ट होती है. सो दीज आर अ कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर्स. बोथ दीज expenditure, revenue and capital expenditure, are financed by these government borrowings only. That is why borrowing is not a negative word alone. Loan लेना एक negative word अकेला नहीं है. But unsustainable loan लेना is a negative word. That is why global debt is a problem, because it can in long run turn to unsustainability where it is not able to be handled. Okay, so let's look into the impact of rising debt. What will be the impact in long run of this rising debt? First, as I talked about, debt sustainability and fiscal imbalance. अगर long run में ये debt बढ़ता चला गया, for example, in the year 2018 if we talk about, गवर्नमेंट ने 40 करोड़ रुपीस स्पेंड किए एंड रेवेन्यू वाज ओनली 30 करोड़. 10 करोड़ का डेफिसिट आ गया. नाउ दिस 10 करोड़ इज टेकन फ्रॉम वेरियस अदर इंस्टीट्यूट्स. ओके, एंड इन द ईयर 2019 नाउ द गवर्नमेंट इज अर्निंग अ रेवेन्यू ऑफ 40 करोड़ से एंड स्पेंडिंग अराउंड 60 करोड़. नाउ दिस 60 करोड़ में जो 20 करोड़ का डेफिसिट आ रहा है, this deficit is because of the present day policies also जो उस particular year में 2019 में गवर्नमेंट ने ली होंगी, and also due to the interest payment जो previous borrowing की थी in 10 करोड़ की. Now this interest payment is of no use. It is just going away on the previous givings. So unsustainable है. In the long run you are just paying interest. वो interest payment अगर आपका 5 करोड़ interest payment पे गया, you could have utilized them for some other policies, for some other capital investments. So in the long run अगर debt बढ़ता जाता है, then it becomes unsustainable and fiscal imbalance आता है. This is known as primary deficit if we use the key term. Previous borrowing का interest payment करना, which is not the spending of the present year but the previous year. Okay, so this is about fiscal imbalance. Second is reduced economic flexibility. Now if you are already debt burdened, then you do not have a flexibility to conduct various. Now if you are already debt burdened, then you cannot carry out various populist policy. For example, if we take a classic example of 2008 financial crisis. 2008 में financial crisis आई थी, but India was saved from those financial crisis. One of the reason was fiscal discipline. Yes, उसी के कुछ ईयर पहले India passed the major act of FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management. हम भले ही उस एक्ट का टारगेट अचीव नहीं कर पाए थे, बट हमारा फिजिकल डिसिप्लिन इतना बेटर हो गया था that we were in a position to carry out various populist measures. Government ने expansionary fiscal policy लाई where taxes were reduced and the expenditure was increased. भले ही deficit हो रहा था, but that deficit was necessary. अगर उस समय पे वो expenditure नहीं किया जाता, then economy would have gone into recession. Yes, so sometimes you need to incur the deficit to bring a good economic outcome. For example, 2008 mein economy was already in recession and India could do only because of a fiscal discipline. For example, in previous years, the fiscal deficit was this big. FRBM की एक्ट के अकॉर्डिंग हमारा फिजिकल डेफिसिट रिड्यूस होकर समवॉट ये आ गया था. एज अ रिजल्ट हमारा एक्सपेंशन ऐसे हुआ. If we were not in fiscal discipline, then this debt would have risen to this big amount. Are you getting it? Therefore, fiscal discipline is very much necessary to carry out various flexible policies in the times needed. Next is financial system risk. Now, if we talk about financial system risk, we are saying that in the globalized world, all the countries and economies are interconnected. For example, 2000 global financial crisis की बात की जाए, it started in USA Federal Bank, but it went on to other countries because एक particular institution या particular country जिसका dominance ज़्यादा होगा, अगर उसमें stability hamper होती है, then the repercussions are on the other institutes and other countries as well. As a result, whole of the financial system comes under the risk. Next is impact on the interest rate. As the debt level rise, now you're already in debt, आप already बहुत सारा loan ले चुके हो, then government में face higher interest rate because you're already under debt. New borrowing आपको easily नहीं मिलती हैं, ज़्यादा interest rate पे मिलती हैं. As a result, you need to avoid borrowing further and this can exacerbate debt burdens. Okay. Next is potential for default and inflation. There can come a time when your debt has risen to such an amount that you can also default because you're not able to pay. And to do this, the government may raise the prices, print money, which can also lead to other repercussions like inflation. That is why debt in the long run, in the unsustainable manner, can hamper the economic growth and cripple up the economy. That is why these are some of the negative impacts of rising debt. So this was all about global debt, where we have seen that the countries are under the debt and the major debt is held by the institutions like IMF and World Bank. But when we talk about the development projects, then definitely this is a better step. But in the long run, we should minimize the revenue expenditure, which are incurred on day-to-day basis and do not give asset in the long run. So this was all about global debt and its impact. Hope you like the video. Do like and comment. And for more such videos, subscribe to our channel IAS Origin. Thank you.